Looks like we're recording already.
Oh.
Says we're recording.
Good evening, welcome to the Goffstown's Capital Improvement Program Committee meeting. It's the first one of many meetings for the month of May, June, July, and August, and runs into September. For those of you who don't know what the Capital Improvement Committee is, it's a committee that is authorized by the Planning Board under an RSA, and I don't know what it is. And the CIP Committee is charged with taking requests from town departments for purchases that have a certain threshold and plugging them into a 6-year matrix to try to even out the expenses for the taxpayers and try to avoid large increases in taxes due to poor planning. It is a planning tool. The planning board does not question the department heads and committees that come in here. We simply take their information, we plug it into a matrix. As best we can, we make a recommendation to the planning board. The planning board either chooses to accept our recommendation or make changes. It's voted on to accept as presented or as amended. After that, it goes to the Board of Selectmen and the Budget Committee for review and final decision-making on the dollar figures themselves. So be aware that CIP is this is a planning tool that the Planning Board authorizes. If I've forgotten anything, I'll be happy to have someone tell me, but if not, we'll have introductions around the table, starting with our Selectmen's rep.
Jim Craig, Selectman Rep.
Jack Carbonell, School Board Rep.
Colleen Mayune, at-large member.
Tim Redmond, Planning Board elected member.
Samantha Kearns, Budget Committee Representative.
Brad Parkhurst, at-large member.
Danielle Besora, Assistant Town Administrator.
Thank you very much, everyone, for being here tonight. Under organization, we normally would look at our schedule for meetings. And if anybody has a conflict, it's a good time to let us know so that we can make sure that you either send someone in your place or we take, and I don't know what we do if you don't show up. I guess you just don't get a chance to participate if you don't show up.
You don't get a check.
No, there's no checks. There's no checks at all. It's checks and balances, Brad. So if anybody has a conflict based on the schedule beginning June the 6th moving forward, if you don't know it right now, you can pass it on to the Assistant Town Administrator, Danielle, and she will make sure that it's duly noted for the committee to deal with it as it comes up.
I assume these are all Thursday nights?
They are.
Okay, thanks.
They're all Thursday nights, the other Thursday night that the planning board doesn't meet every month.
Okay, thank you.
So people like me and Colleen, we don't get a Thursday off until September. Okay. Everyone's information is correct. I assume we used to put phone numbers in there, but we don't do that anymore. There is a Capital Improvements Program Committee Handbook in the first section of your handout. Talks about objectives and policies. If anybody hasn't read it, it's a good idea to read it. I would ask, has anyone here served prior? Who's a first timer? That's what I'm trying to get to. Jack?
Yeah.
Colleen, you're a first timer. Samantha, you were here last time. Good. So we should be able to move along. And if you have any questions, please, there are no dumb questions. We'll answer anything that needs to be answered. I don't think I have anything else under the organization. Colleen, Danielle, have I forgotten anything under organization?
No, I don't think so. Yeah, there's a copy of the master plan that follows the actual handbook. And right before the handbook, you also have a copy of last year's committee report if you want to know kind of where projects left off or what was prioritized. And then in each tab, you do have sheets for projects, but really the matrix is going to be the main working document, and we'll make updates to the matrix as needed and provide new copies to the committee.
On the master plan, it says 2020 updated, but has there already been any updates since then?
No, the master plan is
Thank you.
not done every year.
I didn't know if there had been any changes.
How
amendments.
often is it done?
When money's available, usually.
Okay.
because it's very expensive.
All right.
By statute, they recommend every 10 years, but it's really a recommendation.
Okay. Procedurally, we accept requests from all the department heads and committee members that are on our schedule. We can review we can ask questions and hopefully get answers. But if questions arise, we still have the authorization to recall members to come back to us at a later date if any questions are unanswered, or if we have something that comes up that we don't understand what's going on with the request. I think maybe Jim
Somebody's
is
coming
arrived.
down the
Yeah,
hall.
it's Impy. It's probably crutching it.
I don't know, it's probably,
No, it's just-
Give me a minute, I'll be right there.
Take your time.
Take your time.
We won't start without you. So tonight, we're only seeing admin tonight, if my schedule is correct?
yes,
Okay, good.
although it says admin and other. I don't think there's any other.
So we'll just take a little break here for a minute and wait for our other community at large member to see.
So the admin projects start on line 145 of the matrix, which is the fourth pages. I'm gonna set the page numbers in front. I'll add that to the next one.
Do you have those extra things you handed out to us for Jim somewhere?
Yes, yep, right here on the corner.
But I imagine he's gonna sit over here, because this is an empty spot right here. So if you could, 145. Okay.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I apologize, but I've learned the hard way when I drive back from our office in Peterborough. Even though we represent all the town to go through, the police will still stop you, so it's been very
Well,
No compassion.
they have their job to do too.
very good attitude. So, I'm sorry.
Did you get stuff?
I didn't this time. So I'm late.
So everyone has identified themselves for the record. Jim, could you please do yourself for the record, please?
I'm Jim Raymond.
Thank you very much. We have done our organization portion, Jim, and we are on to admin already. So we are on line 145 of your new matrix that was distributed tonight. And I think the best way to do it is to let Derek speak to him. And once again, for the record, sir.
Derek Horn, your town administrator. Thank you for all being here on such a nice evening. I do want to point out a couple of things about the matrix. Town Hall does not have, or administration, we do not have any vehicles in the matrix, but Town Hall does have a vehicle for our building inspector. That ends up being a hand-me-down that starts at police, goes over to DPW, and then we get it in its last years. So as those become available, we look to replace, but we don't go out and actually purchase new vehicles, but we do actually have one vehicle here.
So do you think that we should have a line that shows that you have it, or do you say we just?
I don't think so, because we haven't historically done it for purchasing. I just did want to make sure, because we do have one here.
Okay, thank you.
What I'd like to start out with is the 2024 projects. What we have here is in column G, there are two projects, there are actually three projects that I kind of need to bring CIP committee members up to speed on. So the first one is on line 147. We had included in part of the town's proposed operating budget $50,000 for purchase of new ballot counting devices. Knowing that the state of New Hampshire, the Ballot Law Commission was going through the testing process with different vendors, we knew that this was going to be coming up this year. As you may be aware, we're in default budget, so when the operating budget article failed, the select board took recommendations from department heads, and what we did was we made a recommendation that the select board used the proposed operating budget, and then we backed out certain projects, certain increases to get back to that default appropriation. One of those items that got backed out was ballot counting devices. So the update now is the state has authorized 2 vendors for ballot counting devices. One of those vendors is not authorized to be used for the state primary or the presidential primary. And so this project may come back to the select board in 2024 as either potentially a lease. That's what the town of Londonderry ended up doing. They ended up leasing them. We have to be careful on what's allowed with the language for that. And then, or alternatively, we have some expiring COVID funds that the town has received. The majority of that was used on the police and fire department radio tower project. But we still have a little bit of funds left there that need to be committed by the end of this year. We also have Invest NH grant funds for one of the multifamily dwelling projects on Bog Road. The town received $600,000 for that. So departments had identified projects that the select board had blessed, but we may be coming back again. We may come back, or as we near the end of the CIP process, I may throw that project back in for budgeting in 2025. I'm waiting to meet with the moderator and the town clerk to see on what recommendation they're going to be bringing forward on the ballot counting devices.
There's no harm in putting it in as a placeholder, though, in
Yeah,
2025.
Yeah, so it's in there as 0 right now. The line will be there, but I did want to just kind of, we did not purchase those. The other
Hang on,
item,
Derek, Jim?
I'm just to clear, is there something that says these have to be used for the upcoming election in 2024?
no, actually, the ones that we have now will be perfectly fine for 2024. We need to talk to that vendor because those devices are 25 years old now, and sourcing replacement parts or repair parts for them is very difficult, and we're going to get to the point where LHS, which is a Salem, New Hampshire company, they are going to be, what I assume is going to be supporting their new ballot counting device, and they're not going to be offering to maintain these and keep maintaining these.
But we don't have.
We're fine for the the state primary and the presidential, and then we'll see what we need to do moving forward.
Thank you.
So before you move on to another item, in terms of the ballot counting devices, you're gonna wait and see how things shake out with the Board of Selectmen, and you still may bring back a request for 2025 to be put into the matrix before we conclude.
Correct. Right now, it's at 0. I'm pretty confident that with the COVID funds, we'll be able to do something with it. But
That's fine.
Quick question,
Samantha?
just to look at last year's matrix, is that number on there still accurate of like how much they would cost if you were to purchase
we
them?
haven't actually reached out to either company to see what they're going to be charging for outright purchase, whether it's lease. We haven't done that yet. The second company wasn't even approved by the Ballot Law Commission until April, so that's a pretty recent
Okay,
thing.
thank you.
So on line 148, you have refresh virtualization hardware and server licensing. This is our town servers that really are the backbone of everything. They run all the time, 24/7, and they provide support for all of our town departments. Has all of our digital documents, digital databases, for our financial software, DPW work orders, CAD, police dispatch, etc. So historically, the refresh cycle for this type of equipment was every 7 years. There's quite a few businesses that are actually going to shorter refresh cycles. They're going to actually to 5 years. And the biggest reason because a lot of the, there's additional security features as well as additional software features that come with these that provide less manpower for setup and maintenance. So this project was in the approved CIP matrix last year for $280,000. Again, as part of the select board reviewing the operating budget and acting on department head's recommendation, we have $150,000 in that line, that expense line in 2024 right now. IT is working to see if they can do a portion of the project, or if we potentially, that's another one, that is an expense that's gonna come up every 5 to 7 years, so we may be looking to do something similar to what the school did, and potentially seeing about some type of lease contract for those as well. If this project were not to be done and I had to budget for it fully in 2025, I have it in there for $300,000. So you do have the submittal form, and it is showing in the matrix, but it's not a combined total of $450,000. But again, we're trying to determine if we put this expense into our operating budget where it's a constant expense every year, every month, or every 5 to 7 years we're doing this.
Question. You say you're looking into leasing rather than purchasing. Are we looking to lease because we're put in that position because?
That's the ballot counting devices, that's not this stuff.
No, this is potential as well with the servers.
To lease?
Potentially, because this is, our computers and our servers have gotten to the point that it is it's like the spine, it's our backbone of everything we do. So to have that spike in the budget every 5 to 7 years, if it were to get defeated multiple years in a row, we're gonna have outdated equipment. So I've been working with IT of, can we get this into the operating budget? Whether it's that way, or whether we get on a refresh cycle where right now we have our computers that are upstairs are on a 4-year replacement schedule. You don't replace them all in 1 year, you do a quarter at a time. So do we move to that model, that we're purchasing, whether it's one server every 4 years, or if it's still easier to do them all at once, do we do it that way? So we're looking to see if we can break up this cost so it's the same every year.
I'm sorry, Brad, please continue.
So this is kind of generated by the fact that we're operating under the default budget.
If we weren't on default, then yes, if the operating budget we're in and us as department heads has proposed to this one to stay in there. I did keep some funds in there, so if we need to do a portion or replace a portion of the servers, we could potentially do that.
Okay, thank you.
Is there unreserved fund balance available for any of these things that are giving you troubles?
The only way we'd be able to tap into those would be approval at town meeting, so that'd be 2025. We would have to go to the voters and ask for that.
Okay. Any questions regarding the rate refresh virtualization hardware?
Or just terminology, when you say operationalize, that means?
Put it in an expense line in the operating budget so it's there, the same way we have right now. Our laptops, our mobile terminals, they're all under the IT budget rather than the capital, the CIP portion of the budget.
But I'm not
is there a way to like even reserve the funds every few years, even if you only refreshed every 7 years?
That's definitely something we could do. We would have to set up a
Like,
capital
yeah,
reserve
right,
fund.
Yeah,
So that's definitely something we could do. Historically, because the price has always been, you know, between $250,000, 300,000 every 5 to 7 years, we hadn't gone that route. But it's definitely, as the cost of that technology continues to ratchet up every year, it's something that we're starting to talk about as department heads, for all capital, for, you know, those more expensive items.
okay, thank you.
So Derek, is there $150,000 available right now to use towards this project based
Yes.
on your numbers in here?
Yes, there is.
And the additional 300,000 is to carry you beyond or to complete a major portion of the project?
What I put is that 300,000 would be as if I had no funds in this year. I don't need 150 plus 300. So again, this is gonna be another one of those refinements as you get close to the end of your CIP process. I may provide you a modified number.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Thank you.
So for 2025 projects on line 149, and also related is line 150, is the ADA elevator addition at Grassmere Town Hall. So the town and the Historic District Commission commissioned a preservation plan. They had an architectural historian come in, look at the building, and this was done in the very late 80s, and it was completed in 1990. And what they did is they gave them a plan of this is how you rehabilitate the building. And the plan was to put on an ADA elevator addition on the rear of the building, so you didn't impact the front staircase, you didn't impact the facade from the front of the building. That is that is a 34-year-old plan at this point. And when we applied for LCHIP grant funds last year, because we do have a capital reserve fund for Grassmere Town Hall approved by town meeting, and it's funded, it has just over $400,000 in it. So when we went to LCHIP last year, they're the most likely granting source for this type of project. The feedback was we were unsuccessful with that grant, and the feedback that we received was your preservation plan is too old. And then this year, when we went to go apply again, they had actually changed the rules that a qualified preservation plan had to be less than 10 years old. So we couldn't even apply this year. So right now, at their meeting at the end of May, last week, the Historic District Commission voted to move forward with getting a scope of work and quotes for an update to the qualified preservation plan. This will also give them an opportunity to look at, are there any other options for that addition to get people up to the second floor to the restored theater. So what I have here in 2025 is what we estimate is $30,000 for that plan. If it comes in lower, or it comes in, the HCC may come to the select board this year to use their capital reserve fund. They also have a restoration fund that has money in it that is maintained by the trustees of the trust fund. They may tap into that to get the preservation plan completed in 2024. That way we could apply for an LCHIP grant in 2025. Now that elevator, the ADA elevator addition, as the plans were done by the architect at that time, we did have a local contractor that does projects of this scope. They came out and they said last summer it'd be about 1.3 million. So I've got it in here for 1.4. So again, the town has a capital reserve fund of $400,000. LCHIP is a 1-to-1 grant to match. So best case scenario, if they've got, if they've got the ability to fund 700,000, that would be great. And then the HGC and the select board will have to either through seeking out a capital donation, capital fundraiser, or if they're going to go back to the voters and ask for additional funds to finish this project. But really, the goal of the HCC right now is to get that preservation plan updated and then apply for LCHIP next spring. And what we would do is we would find out in the fall of 2025 whether or not we're successful. If it was successful, we would have 2 years to complete that work.
Question, is this near the final phase of the restoration of the town hall?
Yes, so that qualified plan, that preservation plan was broken down into 6 phases. The HTC received an LCHIP grant in 2011 and has done a lot of work with arts grants, CLG grants, a bunch of other grants, and a lot of volunteer time. So we've done the first 5 phases, and that last phase is to put on the addition on the back so that people that need it can use the elevator to get up to the fully restored second floor.
And the whole idea is to be able to utilize that meeting room space for, obviously, meetings that can't be held there now because of ADA compliance.
Yes, right now we can't do any town meetings there, but it would also open it up to people that might be interested in renting it.
Yeah.
We do have a few people that came in last night or Tuesday night. There's a small dance studio. They come every year, and they've got about 30 children that they like to go up on the stage. So they do it before it gets too hot. So
Right.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Derek, you said qualified preservation plan, is that something, like, does the State Historic Preservation Office have like a list of qualified consultants?
They do.
Or is that, okay.
They do, yep, and then it has to be kind of blessed by the state preservation officer.
So do they have to review when the town puts out the RFQ and starts that process?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, we work with them on exactly, because we don't want to get back to the point where we're applying for LCHIP and they say, no, your plan doesn't even qualify, because
Okay.
that's a prerequisite for any other grants over $50,000.
Okay.
Derek, you didn't identify any funding sources for line 149. Is there a reason why has no funding sources?
That's probably a mistake on my part, I apologize. It would either be from the Capital Reserve Fund, or, like I said, they do have a Grassmere Town Hall Restoration Fund, and those funds are held by the trustees of the trust fund.
But it's not, you're not asking for a tax appropriation for this.
No additional tax appropriation for the preservation plan.
Thank you.
I just-
Jim?
If I may, so if I understand, which I'm not sure I do, there's $400,000 now existing for this
Yes.
project?
Yes.
And is that the amount, and the LCHIP grant would be a one-on-one? So
Yes.
potentially there'd be $800,000 generated from?
So if you've got a $1.4 million project and LCHIP approves half, and they say we'll pay for 50% of it,
Yeah.
they'd pay for $700,000. We have $400,000 right now. There is still a sizable
Yeah,
gap. The HCC understands that, and
and where does that come from?
good question. And that's where they're still looking. They're gonna probably have to do similar to what the library, again, not the scope of what the library is looking, but they're gonna have to start a capital donation, a capital fundraiser.
Yeah, we've always talked about that.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Does an LCHIP grant have a lifespan?
Yes, it does. You have a stewardship requirement that you have to take care of the building. I actually.
No, I mean, if it's granted, is there a time frame that you have to meet the
Yes.
2
requirement?
years, gotta be.
Yeah, 2 years.
That's the number of.
Yep, 2 years.
2 years. So they got 2 years to get things together if they receive an LCHIP grant.
Yes.
Thank you. Any questions on the Grassmere? Well, we kind of jumped ahead to the elevator for 26. Did you want to leave it at that, or do you have more to say about the elevator in 26, Derek?
No, they're very tied together. I don't foresee that we would ever move this up to 25, simply because of when the LCHIP, their grant, and just for your information, LCHIP is whenever you sell a property and you record that deed at the county registry of deeds, there's an additional fee that goes along with that, and that that pot of money is held by the state of New Hampshire. It's done for historic preservation as well as land conservation. They've got a pretty good history of funding similar projects like this. But we also know that there are other towns that are looking out for elevator access as well.
Any questions on either of those two items, the preservation plan or the elevator? Okay, you want to go back up to the top of the page then, Derek?
Yes, absolutely. On line 146 is a town hall parking lot repair as well as a repair and repointing of the granite curbing. This was a project that was in CIP probably 6 or 7 years ago, and we were always trying to coordinate and do this project at the same time that DPW was going to do Church Street. The drainage that comes from Autumn Brook runs over by Autumn Street, First Ave, comes under Main Street by Tonic, the barber shop on Main Street, the old Hall's TV repair. Comes under Church Street, and it goes actually under the building, under our driveway, and right out to the river. So we always thought if there's anything drainage related, which DPW doesn't think there's going to be significant drainage work, but I guess I was being a little bit more cautious that if there was any drainage, we didn't want to do the parking lot before they did Church Street. So they're looking to do that in the next couple of years as part of their road plan as funds allow, because again, that the asphalt costs and everything else are going up and up. What we would do is, there are a few spots. There's a spot out here that we had a sinkhole a few years ago that DPW was nice enough to come over and repair. We would repair and also look at the granite curbing around the building as well as around the edges as well, because there are a couple spots that have been hit by the plow, and then some of the mortar needs to be redone.
Question. So I know you're trying to, same time that DPW does Church Street. So this would be a private vendor or private contractor would do the parking lot?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you.
Yes, DPW is really,
Oh, I understand.
they're pretty much taxed,
Oh, I know that.
similar to what the Parks and Rec's gonna be doing over at the sports complex with, with the work that they've gotta do over there. We can lean on them as much as possible, but to actually have them come in and do it.
No, I understand.
Yep.
Any other questions for Derek? Okay.
So you don't have anything, oh, I do. You don't have anything out beyond 2026?
I've got a note here.
Oh,
I've gotta add some funds in for a master plan update. So,
I was so curious.
it didn't even dawn on me until somebody had said, oh, it's 2020, when do you do it? It's, oh yeah, we probably should put some money out in 2029 or 2030, so I will,
Do a submission sheet
my
and we'll
fault.
add it.
I apologize for that, so.
I accept the blame for that.
Yeah, no, I will, I'll get that to Danielle and we'll get copies out to you. I don't know what the going rate for that is, to be honest with you. So I'll work with Joanne and we'll get that added into the matrix. But that would be at the end, whether it's 29 or 30. It's usually about 18-month process.
Unfortunately.
Yeah,
18 months.
yeah, to do all the, work that the planning board needs to do, but also get the public input and everything. It can be a long process.
To jump back to the parking lot, Derek, do we know if the Public Works commissioned a study of the pipe inside from?
They are going to be doing that this summer.
I know
I
that.
talked to Adam. They are going to be TVing the pipe this summer.
Because as I have heard, but I haven't walked it, there's multiple different types of structures under the ground. There's stone structures in some portions, there's concrete pipe in other sections, and that's where we have troubles where the two sections join.
Okay.
That's where you will end up with a leak and settling.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of thing we should make sure that is addressed.
Or a Christmas tree stuck in there.
Yeah. That must have been a heck of a Christmas tree. Okay, any other questions for the town administrator here for the admin projects. So we'll expect a submission sheet for master plan, which we will submit, put into our packet, and we'll add it into the matrix in the year you see fit. Anybody else have any questions? Great, thank you, Derek.
Thank you very much.
Well, that was our only bit of business for tonight. We will be having a busy night
Next week.
next Thursday, June the 6th. The schedule, who made the schedule up? You guys?
Patty usually does.
Okay, because I'm just looking at Parks and Rec, PD, and Fire. There's at least 2 big departments there. But then I look down to the Library and the Sewer Commission. That's another short night. Would have been nice to space them out.
So, Parks and Rec was originally gonna be presenting tonight, but they had a schedule conflict. So they asked, if they could bump to the next night, knowing that they only have a few projects. And Patty mentioned that depending on how quickly things go or what the committee feels may work, it's possible that Library and Sewer Commission may be moved up to July to free up that first meeting in August in case you either have a night off or have callbacks.
Yeah, we have had abbreviated schedules in the past based on how quickly things go. Does anybody here think that our Thursday meeting for the 6th is going to be excessively long? And
Tim, last year, they were much shorter than in prior years. Correct, in some years, police and fire were very long, but I was surprised last year how short they were. So if they're following the pattern they set last year, it's feasible. If it's like some of the prior years, it's a full evening. But it is nice to get them both in the same room so we can get them to bid on who's giving us the best ride and equipment.
now, I haven't, excuse me, Samantha, I haven't been here in a long time. Do you give a lot of time to the out projects in the past years? Are you giving them lots of discussion, or just
No.
basically a very brief discussion of what the outlying years are in those?
Do you want me to respond?
Please.
Should I be doing this for a while? Many of the projects, police and fire are recycling, they're on a repeat schedule. There are some big items, the fire trucks aren't on a schedule there, but, and we put in some of the big items just as it's a placeholder with red flags. This is coming up, but we don't need to discuss it in great detail because any number that you put in now is guesswork, right?
Correct.
So we just want to identify it. So when we do our looking at what happens over time in our goal of making the tax rate as equal as possible, we just want to consider that cost. But then Derek will say, well, we could bond it anyway, so it spreads out the cost. So it all supports what you're saying. You don't need to
Thank
spend a
you.
lot of time on it.
Thank you. Samantha?
No, I take it back. I'm good.
Okay. Because I said the same thing before you arrived, that, we looked.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, I'm just
I
saying-
was dodging the police and our client.
I was just trying to, make it clear about the spreading things out to avoid tax increases, that type of thing. Anybody else have anything else for tonight?
May I just say one thing? Last year, one of
Yeah,
the
go ahead.
changes we made last year was to show on the presentation how the tax costs, because you put a big lump sum in 1 year, but if you pay for it over several years, which it never showed that before, so now it's a better picture to do what you just said.
That's bonding
Yeah, bonding or CIP or some other way to spread out the cost.
or leasing?
Yeah, and we didn't have that previously, so it's a better picture than what we were presenting when you were chairing this before.
We were pay-as-you-go back then.
Yeah, and that's.
That got very expensive.
Yeah, that appears.
It actually forced a lot of projects down the road.
Yeah, anyway,
Okay.
I'll shut up for a while.
No, you're fine.
I'm just
Jim?
curious, if you took something and started leasing it, like the IT stuff or something, would that take it out of CIP? Or would it just be a regular?
So, can I?
Go ahead, I already know the answer.
So, yes and no. The project will be removed from the matrix once it's onto a lease, but the lease payment will stay in the totals. We have a separate line where we track long-term debt. so that you can see what's being committed across the years. So you actually have two series of totals on your sheet. That's what Jim was referring to. From last year, you have kind of your gross totals, and then you have a version of those totals if it was bonded or leased for any of the projects that have been flagged that way.
So bonds track that way as well?
Yeah.
Same
Yeah,
way?
so that way you can see, when does the, the bond run out, which year is it, that sort of thing. And we print a copy of the debt schedule for the committee as well, that will be coming forward soon.
And
Thank you.
correct me if I'm wrong, but a lease payment, once it's approved by the voters for like a 5 or 7 year lease, is protected in the default budget. So
It is.
it does not have to be reauthorized annually. It's just,
Right.
once it's accepted as a 7-year debt, it stays in the budget regardless of a default or a past budget. It's a contract.
Okay,
You're right.
so is that, so and that's part of it. So what's your opinion on lease versus replace, or is it all Not
So
your place,
I've only looked at it from the admin side,
Yeah.
specifically with IT.
Right.
I know the leasing of vehicles, towns do it all different ways and everything.
Yeah,
So for IT is our backbone.
Right.
I would like to move, whether it's a replacement schedule where you're replacing similar hardware every year, a little bit at a time,
Right.
or if you're doing a lease for those servers. A few years ago, I think it was 2 years ago, we did all of our major switches, and that was another $240,000 project.
Right.
You can't say, no, we're not gonna do those switches. It's absolutely critical that we do that, otherwise it's gonna impact what we're doing. So for IT, whether it's a lease or whether it's just breaking up how you're purchasing them, I'd like to get it into the operating budget. Vehicles, I'll leave that to DPW and fire and police to give their opinion on.
Yeah,
Well, the only reason for leasing in vehicles is when you have that great big $2 million fire engine or the
right.
$400,000 plow trucks. You can make a commitment to put it into the tax base, but you don't have to shell out, you don't have to raise taxes dramatically to pay for them in 1 year.
Right, I was looking at it more at a, if you did a continuing funding resolution as opposed to lease, is there cost, what's the real cost savings or not cost savings?
So do you mean like the capital reserve?
Capital reserve fund, so, yeah.
Yeah, so your savings is you're growing interest by putting the funds away in that account
Yeah.
ahead of time, as opposed to when you do a lease, you're paying interest that you have no control over on the end. So you have, by saving for it up front, you actually have an opportunity to grow the funds.
Right.
So,
That's how I normally.
And avoid interest.
That's how I normally look at
Yeah,
it, that's what I.
but sometimes leasing becomes the only option if you haven't put those funds away and
Right.
your time has run out and that equipment's failed and
Yeah.
there's no time left,
There you go, right.
then sometimes it's the only option.
Good. Anybody else have anything for tonight? Any pressing business to attend to? Do we do motions for these meetings, or do we just?
Yeah, we do.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion's been made to adjourn, seconded. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, GTV, we're done.